have heard me speak here before. I've talked to you guys several times about biological dentistry. I talked about my root canals and my experience with that and how that led to 20 years of chronic disease for me. And last time I was on, I think we talked about stress and digestion and how there's physical aspects that can happen to your body that add a lot to the stress on your body. And so what I've tried to do, because I believe that foundational wellness is multifaceted. There's no way that we could talk about just all of everything foundational wellness in just one class. So I've been building on all of the core foundational things. And I wasn't sure what I was going to talk about for sure. And I called Sandy yesterday and I was like, hey, I just wanted to see what maybe you guys need the most because I'm not sure what direction to point this. And she goes, well, could you talk on parasites? And I was like, well, I think I could pull that together. So just FYI, this PowerPoint came together in the last 24 hours. It's not fancy. And it kind of felt like I was just throwing up all over the page. So I'm sorry if it's not clear and concise, but that's what we have the Q&A time for at the end so you guys can get clarification. So because we haven't talked about parasites before, and I don't believe Sandy has really had anybody else talk in depth about them, I wanted to go over some of the basics. But for those of you that don't know me, again, my name is Alicia Haugstad. I've been with doTERRA since 2012, or not 2012. Yes, 2012. And I'm a Blue Diamond, a founder 2.0. So I've used the oils extensively and have taught a lot about oils extensively. But for those of you that know a little bit about my backstory, it took me 20 years really to focus on trying to heal my body from the damage the root canal did to my body. And becoming a functional practitioner was kind of one of those final pieces where doTERRA helped me to get my quality of life back. I don't know how I could function without doTERRA, but getting into the functional realm and being able to do testing and to learn more and how to apply the knowledge that doTERRA had given me in a whole new way has been really powerful for me. And so one of the things that has helped me significantly is parasite cleansing. When Sandy and I were talking yesterday, she was telling me about this. I think it was a news clip on the Today Show. You said you saw, Sandy, where the doctor said, if you've got a pulse, you've got a parasite.
That's
And
correct.
I fully believe that. We've all got parasites. Some of us do really well with having parasites in our body. We've got a strong immune system and it doesn't bother us as much as somebody with a more weak or compromised immune system. So ideally what we want is an environment where parasites do not thrive inside our body, if that makes sense. We want to be the point where we could get a parasite, but it's not going to severely negatively impact us. And maybe it'll pass through really quickly, or we can live symbiotically together. But when we have a compromised immune system, or we've got a lot of junk that it can feed on, and they tend to proliferate or just wreak havoc because they're having a party inside our body, that's when it's a problem. So you may be wondering, maybe you already know common ways how you could get a parasite, but these are some of the most common ways: undercooked food, unclean water, raw produce, like not washing your produce, restaurants, sometimes when they get really busy, sometimes food goes undercooked and it's not monitored as much as you would in your own home. Drinking or swimming in rivers, lakes, or streams, traveling. Mexico gets a bad rap. For people say, don't, when you go to Mexico, don't drink the water, but the water doesn't bother the locals. It's because, when you live in a certain area, you adapt to the different pathogens and different parasites and stuff that are in your area. But also, in the United States, we have different hygiene practices than other countries. We over sterilize things, so sometimes we can't handle stuff that people in other countries can. So traveling is a common way to pick something up. Also, when you have animals, especially if you have like a whole farm full of animals, but you can even get them from your dogs. Dogs like to drink out of puddles and eat garbage. And bring you dead birds and dead animals and stuff, like they're laying trophies at your feet. You know, they get into some nasty stuff. And if you're the kind of person that doesn't have boundaries with your dog and you let your dog lick your hands or lick your face or sleep in your bed, and you love that, that's awesome. You just probably want to parasite cleanse more often. And you may be exposed more often. Infected soil. I knew a guy who was a gardener who got a really awful, awful parasitic infection that was eating away at his feet, and they were going to amputate his feet. And we used oils to save his feet. Um, Human to human, you could get them, like pinworms are really, really common in kids, and passing them from kid to kid, and they can be really nasty to get rid of because you may not know the full procedures. So it's helpful to know what kind of parasites you're dealing with, because a lot of them react to different things. Some of them you need to treat longer. But we're going to go over some generic parasite cleansing today that can be helpful just overall. So how do parasites contribute to our toxic load? Well, they excrete all kinds of nasty stuff. Like, parasites have big poop, and we don't want all of that junk laying around in our body because it can overwhelm our liver and make it harder to detoxify. So they create all of these waste products and byproducts, and they contribute to your inflammation. They can weaken your immune system. They can disrupt your gut flora, which has caused a dysbiosis, like an imbalance of your gut bacteria. They can eat your nutrients, leading to malnutrition and deficiency. I was on a call yesterday with one of my colleagues who's a microbiologist, and she was telling us all about the disgusting things she found in her lab and how she would find like even red blood cells inside of these parasites. So they are eating things in our body that we need. Not all of them, but some of them do eat things that are beneficial to us. And they create a lot of oxidative stress and mess with your immune system. They can go undetected for years. You could have them for a really long time. And so they're keeping your body in a state of chronic stress or contributing to it. I'm not saying they are the only problem, but they are a significant contributing factor to the overall stress, and toxic load on your body. And then they have like different progressions in stages, and we'll talk about that. But they can be an obvious source of HPA axis dysfunction, your hypothalamus pituitary and your adrenals. So if you're struggling with chronic fatigue, you may want to consider looking into parasites, especially if you're dealing with maldigestion, malabsorption, toxicity issues, struggling to detox, having a hard time eliminating, or maybe even leaky gut. We talked about leaky gut, I don't know, a few months back. So what do your parasites eat? Primarily, they are eating foods and things that you are bringing in. And usually they're foods that are not the best for you anyway, like sugars, starches, dairy, red meat, or undigested food. So if you have low stomach acid, and high levels of indican, which means that your protein is putrefying in your gut, they'll eat a lot of that undigested food. You're not digesting it, but they will. And it's still nutrients that you should be absorbing. So we want to make sure you have really good, healthy gut. Like I said, some can feed on red blood cells. So if you've had struggles with low iron, low hemoglobin, and your doctors, are just saying, I don't know why, or it could be a copper issue, a copper imbalance, but a big one is parasites. They can cause that even when you're supplementing. We see that a lot with people that have low vitamin D levels a lot, and they're still supplementing with vitamin D, and a parasitic overload can contribute to that as well. Here's some possible symptoms. Like, the list of symptoms you could get from having parasite overload is extensive, but these are some common ones: digestive problems, abdominal pain, lots of fatigue, skin irritation, sleep disturbances. Especially, most people notice a lot of sleep disturbances between like midnight to like 4 o'clock in the morning, because that's when parasites are most active. So if you notice that that's a trouble time, I'd suggest doing a parasite cleanse. If you're having sugar cravings, struggling with malabsorption, liver, gallbladder, and bile duct issues. I've had people that had like gallbladder pain, or end up having to have their gallbladder removed. And it turned out they ended up having a lot of parasites. And maybe if they'd done a parasite cleanse, maybe they never would have had to have their gallbladder removed. But that is a big one, having uh, um, some parasites that will hang out in the liver and cause havoc there or in your bile ducts. A big one that is an indicator, especially for children, like if you are worried about your children having parasites, is itchiness around the anus. So if they're constantly scratching back there, that may be something you want to look into. Then unexplained weight loss or weight gain. So typically, when you go to your doctor, most doctors will run standard blood labs, right? And that is one way that you can look to see if bugs might be a problem. Not that they detect the bugs themselves, but there are some markers that can indicate that you might have a parasite problem. I already mentioned like struggling with your iron and your vitamin D. If you're supplementing and you can't seem to get it up, that might be one indicator. But here's some markers: high or low white blood count. That's less common, but it could happen. High monocytes. But what I usually look at is the high eosinophils and high basophils. So these ranges that I have in here, the above 4%, above 1%, these are functional lab ranges, because you might go and get blood work done. And we've talked about this before, and your doctor says everything looks normal, but it doesn't, it looks normal according to the lab ranges, but not necessarily a functional range. So you want to always consider if your lab numbers are within a functional range that are indicative of what a healthy person's levels should be, not the average of every single person out there who's ever gotten blood work. You want to be focusing on where you need to be in a healthy range. So if both eosinophils and basophils are high, that's a pattern that I usually am like, okay, that might be an indicator that parasites are an issue. And then an option for looking to actually see if you can find parasites, which it's very difficult. Finding parasites on a test is incredibly hard, especially if it's the basic tests that are run, just say at like a hospital. I can't tell you how many lab techs I have heard from that have said that when they get stool samples looking for parasites, they throw the samples out and don't even test them and just say that no parasites are present. It's incredibly disturbing that a lot of times they will just say there aren't parasites because we just didn't like see any, or they didn't even want to test it, because some medical professionals don't even believe that parasites are a problem, unfortunately. My preferred test that I use is the GI map. We've talked about it before, because this test looks at bacteria, your opportunistic, your so basically your good and bad bacteria, if that's what you want to call them, parasites, protozoan, and then worms and different digestive markers. I like this test because it's well-rounded and it gives you an idea of what's happening inside the gut. You could find this test with most functional practitioners, naturopaths. You will most likely not find this at a standard doctor's office. So the reason that I like to test stool is because I like to have clinical correlation, because somebody could be giving me all of these different symptoms and I could say, I think you might have a parasite. But it's nice to get an idea of what actually might be going on and happening in their gut, because sometimes I could guess by their symptoms and be completely wrong when the tests come back. And knowing a little bit more helps us to know how to attack things. Because for instance, on this test, Blastocystis hominis is one of the protozoan parasites that it tests for. And that one's really tricky to get rid of. Sometimes it can take up to an entire year to cleanse to get rid of that little booger. And so it's nice to know what exactly we're dealing with, so you're not just throwing stuff at it. And we want to make sure that your GI symptoms are correlating with what we're seeing on there. So this is an option if you want to check and see what might be happening, so you know, do I really need to do this? But I will warn you that it doesn't test for every parasite that's out there. Like, it only tests 5 different worms. It's not going to look at everything. And if your parasites are encased in biofilm, which they do, they encase themselves in biofilm or sometimes in cysts, and they're really, really difficult to detect. It can be really hard to test for them. I have found, if you decide to do stool testing, that having my clients challenge their body prior to with the GX Assist. I've had them take GX Assist for 2 weeks prior to testing, so it breaks down biofilm. There's a lot of other essential oils that can help break down biofilm, and then test on the full moon, and I'll explain that in a second. But when they do that, we tend to find more parasites on their tests than if they don't try to break down that biofilm and take it on the full moon. So with the life cycle of parasites, this is one thing that makes it really difficult to test for them and also to eradicate them, because you've got your egg stage, then they move to the larva stage and then the adult stage, and then they start to reproduce, and they can live in the body for months or even years. So depending on what stage they're in, sometimes it's harder to detect them, sometimes it's harder to get rid of them. So we want to make sure that we go through multiple lunar cycles, because the parasites are more active during the full moon, but we want to make sure and get them at every single stage of their life. So we are going to go through a 90-day protocol, adjusting it so that you're putting it right during the full moon. Because you'll find some people think that they talk about how the full moon makes people crazier. I don't doubt it, especially if those people have a lot of parasites, because they can be more active during that time. So you want to make sure with your heavy hitting stuff that's going to be killing off the little bugs, you're using your heavy hitters, those powerful supplements during the week, or I try to do like 4 days before the full moon and then 4 days after at least. And we'll talk more about that. So as far as like preventing, make sure you're having good hygiene, washing your hands. Don't let your animals lick your face, hands, or sleep in your bed. If that's something maybe, especially while you're cleansing, if you can avoid those things. I know some of us love our fur babies, and it's really hard not to give them kisses. But if you're doing a cleanse, you may not want to like do that in the middle of your cleanse. It can make it harder for you to heal. Drink clean filtered water, regularly cleansing, like doing the doTERRA cleanse multiple times, especially if you've been traveling. Sometimes doing it before traveling and then after is a really good idea. And then maintaining a healthy gut. We've talked a lot about how to do that. I know you've had other speakers on here that have talked about gut health. So just make sure you're doing all of those things. Why might you want to do a parasite cleanse? Well, the obvious one is addressing symptoms, right? Or reducing the toxic load that's caused by those parasites, helping your immune system, overall health, your gut health, your energy levels, mood, mental clarity, long-term problems. But this might be these might be some forms some reasons you might not have thought of, because even though you might have parasites only contained in the GI tract, they're a chronic stressor that must be identified and eliminated. Everything that they put off is toxic and contributes to any kind of disease. And they create biofilm, these mucoid plaques, and all kinds of other things that can cause problems in the body. But they can also migrate to tissues and organs, sometimes way far away from the GI tract. On that GI map, the first page is all pathogenic parasites, where those are parasites that go all over the body. Some of them are just like seriously having a party everywhere in your body and go bonkers. So we want to know, are we dealing with something that is traveling outside of the GI tract? Is it tearing apart your liver? Do you have them in your brain? Like that kind of stuff can happen. I was watching a training from the owner of Cellcore, and he was talking about how he has his patients use a product in their nasal rinses, and he's like, you would not believe the stuff that people have sneezed out. Like, he showed us some pictures of parasites that people had coming out their nose. And that's actually fairly common for people that have chronic respiratory issues. Like, it's actually a thing. And so you might not think of that they can cause all kinds of symptoms that you might not think of. But creating cysts around the body is another one, and they can remain dormant within those tissues and be really, really difficult to detect. And when they start creating cysts all over the body, that is very problematic. So we don't want that to happen. We want to get rid of them. So the difficulty of detection is often directly proportional to the level of difficulty for treatment. So even though you may have tested and said, oh, my test said I didn't have any parasites, if you have a hunch that you've got issues and you might have a parasite, I'd say go with your gut because we've all got parasites. We all do. It's just, like I said, some of us have more problems dealing with them than others. Now, as always, our major foundational support is our diet, no matter what. Like your diet is foundational. The doTERRA pyramid, diet and nutrition is the foundation. This is always something you need to be cognizant of for overall health. So while you're doing a parasite cleanse, you can focus on foods that are anti-parasitic, like garlic. Raw garlic is a really big one. So I'm going to show you some doTERRA products can be really helpful, but we don't have, maybe Zenderprint has garlic in it and I'm not thinking of it. But using raw garlic while you're going through this cleanse is going to make your whole cleanse even more powerful. Or even if you just be really cognizant of using garlic during the week of the full moon, like hardcore, it can be helpful. Pumpkin seeds, raw pumpkin seeds, that's a really good one to chew on. Then coconut and papaya. You want to avoid sugar, dairy, and processed foods. I also encourage you to avoid gluten. I didn't put it on the slide, but it is one that's really inflammatory and it would be a good one to take out while you're cleansing as well. Increasing your fiber, lots of leafy greens, vegetables, and fruits. Then fermented foods are going to be helpful, and make sure you're drinking a lot of water to stay really hydrated. You want to make sure that you're having regular bowel movements. Then this graph right here of 20 anti-parasitic foods, these are other things that if you are able to, they'd be great to incorporate into your diet anytime, but specifically while you're doing your cleanse and especially during the week of the full moon. Okay, so now let's jump into the 90-day reset. We've gone over this before. I know Dr. Watts went over this before very briefly. And so it's going to look very similar to what he has recommended, but we're going to just shift everything with a different mindset of addressing parasites while also addressing everything else. Because we're also going to be able to address bacteria and fungal issues as well with the same products that we're using. So this is multifaceted detox. It's just that we want to make sure we're mindful of specific things for parasites if that is our goal. Okay, so here is a brief overview of the 90-day reset. This is a 3-phase approach. We've got phase 1 where we're preparing the soil. This is where you're going to make sure you're opening up your detox pathways, basically preparing your body to be able to handle detoxing everything in phase 2. We want to make sure your liver, your kidney, colon, lungs, and skin are healthy. So if you are not pooping at least once a day, a good healthy bowel movement, you're going to stay in phase 1 until you are. And you may need to add things in like magnesium or aloe or less processed foods, less starches, things that are going to keep your bowels moving quicker. If you're having a bunch of rashes, you may want to stay in phase 1 a little bit longer. Like we want to make sure you can still function through this whole 90-day protocol, okay? We don't want you to not be functioning. I don't want you to be staying in the bathroom or not able to go to work. This is definitely not the goal. If you are that sensitive, you just may have to do a much longer approach. When I did my first parasite cleanse, I think my protocol was 120 days, and I may have extended it a little bit longer because I couldn't handle some of the supplements. They were too intense for me, so I slowed it down. Never power through it, okay? I know maybe you've heard that from a doctor before. Oh, that means it's working. It's just detox. Keep going. And I'm saying no, because we don't want to be causing more damage to your liver. Your liver is already working hard enough. So if that is happening to you, please reach out to me. Or if you don't know how to get a hold of me, ask Sandy for my contact info, because that's not where you should be, okay? We want to increase cellular energy in this phase so that your body, your cells have enough energy to do all of the work it's going to be doing, because it's going to be a lot of work. And make sure you're getting really good nutritional support. So you want to make sure that you're doing your diet during this phase and you're pooping regularly before you move on to phase 2, okay? Now, phase 2 is your detoxification phase. This is where we're going to be doing gentle gut cleansing at first if you need to ease into it. And then it could get a lot more intense if you ramp it up and you're titrating up with your supplements. This is where you're going to clear toxins, your parasites, and unwanted pathogens, okay? Then, once we've done that, we're going to move on to phase 3. And this is where you're going to restore your gut and get repopulating and giving the good stuff back to your gut and kind of like relaxing a little bit. Now, you've seen this approach before, but what we're going to do with parasite cleansing is we're going to bounce back and forth between 1 and 2. And I'm going to show you how we do that. And I created a calendar for you to make it easier. You're just going to have to shift things around the way that you're doing this. So let's go through phase 1 first and what that looks like. So this is preparing the soil, opening up your detox pathways. We want to make sure that everything's flowing. We want to make sure you're sweating. If you go and do something strenuous, like let's say you go to the gym or go out in the garden, and if you start sweating right away, you're doing okay. If it takes you like 15 or 20 minutes to start sweating when you're doing increased activity, then you've got a problem for sure. That's a red flag. But like I said, also you want to make sure that you're having regular bowel movements, that your bile is flowing really well. So the color of your poop is important. Pay attention to all those things. Okay, we're going to increase our cellular energy. Well, the Zendocrine complex is going to help us to open up some of those detox pathways. Make sure you're drinking a lot of water with this. The psyllium husk can bulk up and make it harder to have a bowel movement. So when you're taking that Zendocrine complex, drink a good chunk of water. If you want to throw the Zendocrine oil in here with this, that's a great idea. If you want to do castor oil packs during this time, that's also a really great idea. So that's where the Zendocrine comes in, opening up those detox pathways. Then the Mito2 Max is helping us to increase our cellular energy, increasing mitochondrial function. So we have energy to be doing all of the detoxing that we're going to be doing. This phase, your body's naturally detoxifying. We're not throwing a bunch of like antibacterials, antifungals at it. You're doing natural detoxing in this phase. Then your nutritional support with your VMG plus or your LLV or whatever you're using for that is really important to make sure that you're getting those nutrients. You can take the PB Restore at this time. If you like the sachets better, you could take that as well, but I do prefer the PB Restore for adults. And your E Omega. Omegas are important because they help so much with inflammation and are going to help like grease up your intestines and everything and help everything to be flowing a lot better. So all of these are, I would say, definitely needed. There's things you can add into this phase if you would like to be more supportive for your body. So this phase, we are going to begin at least, so a minimum of 14 days before the next full moon. So I usually have to Google the full moon for whatever the next month is. And then mark on your calendar. I set reminders in my phone, start phase 1 today or whatever. Make sure you've got your groceries already set up and so you know and have a plan for going into your phase 1. If you think you need longer, start sooner. Maybe do phase 1 for a month before the full moon of the next month if you think you're sensitive and you need more support. That's a really good idea. Don't worry about that. If you don't have a gallbladder, absolutely you need gallbladder support. So you definitely want to do ox bile or I like advanced TUDCA from Cellcore. It's really great. I will talk more about Cellcore on the next slide, but ox bile is pretty easy to find. If you need a vegan form, that would be the TUDCA because ox bile is literally bile from an ox and that grosses some people out. So TUDCA is a good vegan option if that is concerning for you. We want to make sure that that bile is flowing really well. So that's a good one that you could add in here. Now, another thing that we have to add, and I love doTERRA and I use doTERRA for almost everything and have been using it for 13 years. But unfortunately, they have never given us a binder and you have to have a binder for this protocol. It is just, I think, not safe to do a protocol like this without a binder. So I wanted to go through my favorites and Sandy said it would be okay if I shared with you guys. I know I've talked about binders before. These would be good additional support to do on with your cleanse. Now, this won't be for everybody because when you start adding a lot of supplements, it starts getting expensive, right? But when we're talking about only doing this for 90 days and you will notice hopefully some huge health benefits, hopefully it's worth it to you to make that investment into your health. So if you only chose one, I would say Para 1 right here from Cellcore is my absolute favorite. This is Mimosa pudica seed, and it's very gelatinous, like way more than psyllium husk. And the way that it can latch onto the parasites and it kind of paralyzes them and helps suck them out of the body. I mean, this stuff is, is like glue for them. It's nuts. It is my absolute favorite binder that I use for parasites, and I don't do a parasite cleanse without this specific product. You could also use a binder like this GI Detox on the right side of the screen that has 4 or 5 different binders in it. It could be helpful with more so with bacteria and fungal things. I don't find it as helpful with parasites. So if your goal is parasites, really Mimosa pudica, and my favorite is from Cellcore, is where it's at. So I put my practitioner code on the bottom because you can't order from Cellcore without it. So if you'd like to use it, you are welcome to use my practitioner code. This second one in the picture, Para 2, is another part of their parasite protocol. And I do think that it works really powerfully in conjunction with the GX Assist. And so I do use this in phase 2. I use both the Para 1 and the Para 2. Cellcore's full parasite protocol is the 3 that are pictured here and a tincture called Para 3. So what I do is I replace their Para 3 with our essential oils because I think the GX Assist is far more potent than the Para 3. I've tried it multiple times to see like if I notice much of a difference, and I definitely notice that our oils are I think superior. So that's why I've kind of meshed together multiple things. And I have it because I wanted to try it out just to see which one would be better. But I definitely use the Para 1 and the Para 2 along with the biotoxin binder. We've talked about the biotoxin binder because when we were talking about gut cleansing, I do think that if you're doing a parasite cleanse and also wanting to address, which everybody has issues with bacteria levels or fungal issues, like we've all just got all kinds of junk with our environment. There's all kinds of things that we're exposed to, heavy metals, environmental toxins. The biotoxin binder handles those things. The Para 1 handles the parasites. So I like using all 3 of these together. But if you're on a budget and you can't do all 3, I think that if you're trying to get rid of parasites, the Para 1 is a must-have. We can talk more about that at the end if you guys have questions. If you're dealing with worms, like maybe your kiddos have pinworms, diatomaceous earth can be a good binder. And I've got some protocols for that I can share with you. And also some parents will make a paste and rub it on the baby's bums and because they come out and it helps with that. You can also like sprinkle it around in the yard where your pet defecates so that you can help with it there. But we can talk more at the end if you guys have more questions about those in particular. So these binders, you could incorporate them into phase 1 if you would like. I do find that using the biotoxin binder during phase 1 can be very helpful for preparing the body, but it's definitely needed during phase 2. But this is what your schedule could look like with phase 1 if you were using the biotoxin binder. I sometimes use it 3 times a day, but I only put it in here twice just so it wouldn't be super overwhelming because I do think that twice a day is decent enough. So this is what your morning routine could look like and your nighttime, and then you've got your anytime stuff like your VMG and your fish oils. You could take it any time of the day. So hopefully that is really helpful to kind of plan out what your day might look like for phase 1. So this is preparing your body to be able to detox. So we're going to do this for 14 days minimum before the next full moon. Then we are going to move on to phase 2. This is beginning 4 days before the full moon. And then you're going to continue it for 10 days. So that's going to be, what is that, 4 days before the full moon and then 5 days after the full moon. And then after you finish these 10 days, we're going to go back to phase 1. I'll show you a calendar. It'll be easier to understand. We are going to repeat this for 3 lunar cycles. So going from phase 1 to phase 2 for 3 lunar cycles, so 3 full moons before moving to phase 3 where we're going to repair the body. Does that make sense? Okay, so phase 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, then 3. Okay? Back and forth, back and forth. and then we're going to repair the body. Okay, so in this phase, we've got our lemon that we're going to be using about 5 drops a day. You can do more, especially if you're trying to do some hormone support. Dr. Hill suggested, I think it was like 15 drops of a citrus oil throughout your day for hormone support. But for this, you only need about 5 a day. You can drink that in water. Don't put it in plastic. Then your GX Assist. This is a powerhouse supplement, you guys. This is so amazing. I wish people knew how awesome this supplement was. I have my colleagues complain about not being able to get rid of some of their clients' pathogens. And I'm like, well, if they use GX Assist, they wouldn't be having a problem getting rid of it because it's so powerful. Multiple different oils in this and the caprylic acid. If you can't use this, we can talk about things that you could use to try to replace this during the Q&A portion. Then Zendocrine Complex, you're going to keep using this. We were using it in phase 1. You can add in Zendocrine soft gels or rub the oil over your liver, preferably with a castor oil pack, because that's going to make it even more effective. You're going to keep taking your probiotics and your VMG and your omega, but we're adding in Terrazyme before your meals and DDR Prime. So the thing is with DDR Prime, has lots of amazing oils for parasite eradication. But I think it has it possibly in too small of doses. So I personally would take 2 DDR Prime or fill up a capsule with a few drops of DDR Prime and add some additional clove to it. Because clove is really, really, really powerful for getting rid of your parasites. If you're taking the Para 2, it has clove in it, so you may not need to add additional clove oil, but you could if you'd like. If you want to make it easy, you could take the DDR Prime soft gels, or you could fill up your own capsules and add a little bit of clove in there. Just a few different options. Your GX Assist is going to break down the biofilm. Also, we mentioned that the parasites can surround themselves in biofilm. So Candida is a big one that a lot of times is encased in biofilm and really hard to get rid of. Your DDR Prime is going to help with apoptosis as well. So this is cell death. So any damaged cells got floating around, it's going to be killing off those damaged cells. So you're going to be doing all kinds of detoxing with this protocol. And I'm not sure how much clove is in the DDR Prime. That's why I suggested maybe adding more if you would like to. Or you could take the On Guard Plus soft gels because those cinnamon and clove are very powerful for killing off parasites. On a different slide, I also mentioned the MetaPower Assist has berberine in it, and berberine is amazing for killing off parasites. So that's something that maybe you would want to include in with your meals. I didn't put it on this slide because I didn't want to overwhelm you with too many supplements. If you're not used to taking a lot of supplements, it can be a lot. So I'm giving you all of the options. If you're the kind of person you're like, I do all the doTERRA things, I've got them all, just throw it at me. I'm giving you all of the options. If you want to have more gentle approach or if you really want to kick it up a notch. Keep in mind also that if you've got some really nasty parasites, you want to change up your routine every 3 months. So you want to do something a little bit different every 4th lunar cycle if you're going to cleanse longer, because they can adapt. Like Blastocystis hominis adapts. And so you have to change up your protocol every few months. And if you need suggestions with how to do that, let me know. Okay, so phase 2 schedule. This is a suggested schedule because if you're taking the Para 1, I put it in here, you want to take the Para 1, actually, Para 1 and Para 2, I believe, on an empty stomach. So if those would be on an empty stomach, I keep them in my bathroom, so I do them first thing in the morning. Then when you go to have breakfast, you can have your Zendocrine Complex, your Restore. If you are taking the biotoxin binder, you could take it at this time. The nice thing about the CellCore biotoxin binder is you don't have to take it away from food or away from your other supplements. Now, if you're on like a thyroid med, I would probably still take your thyroid med away. Like if you're on a medication that has to be on an empty stomach, I would probably still take it away. But this is a binder that you don't have to separate out. If you're taking something with charcoal, like the Biocidin GI Detox Plus that I recommended that was in the lower right hand of the corner, that one does need to be taken away from your foods. So depending on what binder you take, if you need suggestions, let me know and I can help you with your scheduling. Then anytime you can take your VMG, your fish oils, and then your GX Assist, you're going to spread throughout your day. So this is going to be with your meals. You always want to take GX Assist with your meals because when it releases in the gut, sometimes it can cause like some discomfort. I notice it. I've been cleansing for 20 years now, and I still notice when my GX Assist releases. It makes me sometimes feel a little feverish, like I'm a little dizzy, and I'm like, oh, that doesn't feel good. If I drink a bunch of water or eat something that moves through really quickly, usually I feel better. So you want to make sure you eat something, especially something a little bit more fatty. You could maybe take down like a teaspoon of coconut oil with it. That will up your detox effects, by the way, because coconut oil is a natural antifungal. But just make sure that you're eating it with something. Now, you're going to take 1 to 3 a day for a standard cleanse, not 3 at a time. Don't ever take more than 1 GX Assist at a time. It is too intense until you've worked up. At one time, when I was doing my parasite cleanse and had a lot of other intense pathogens I was dealing with, I was taking 6 GX Assist a day, but I had worked up for several months, actually had been taking GX Assist for 10 years at that time. So you want to make sure you're working your way up. If you do have some really intense pathogens you're dealing with, you could work it up and take more, but you have to listen to your body to see how you're feeling. Make sure you can still function throughout the day, but start with just 1 and work your way up. Then you're going to take your DDR Prime twice a day. If you want to, you can add more clove, and then make sure you're using lemon throughout the day. Then again at night, at dinner, you're going to take your Zendocrines and then your binder again with dinner. And then at bedtime, if you're taking the Cellcore Para 1 and Para 2, then you'll take those right before you go to bed. Okay? Now, Sandy, I can't see the chat. Have you seen any questions that I absolutely needed to answer for clarification?
I don't think so. I think at the end again, taking each one when we get done might be very appropriate.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right. So once we remember, I said we were bouncing back and forth between phase 1 and 2. So phase 1 and 2, then 1 and 2 again, then 1 and 2, and then go to 3. 3 lunar cycles, and then moving on to 3. So once we get to phase 3, this is where we're watering and fertilizing, where we're repopulating the gut, and helping to restore and repair. The one thing, oh, for some reason I forgot to add the MetaPower Assist into this graphic. So MetaPower Assist can help with healing the gut lining. And so that's one thing that you could add into here, or you could add into your maintenance phase, because after you've done phase 3, that's what we call maintenance, where you're just kind of trying to maintain your healthy gut environment. This is going to be helpful for gut repair and your cellular restoration, repopulating your gut with the microflora. I know, Eva, we were taking PB Restore the entire time, but when you're putting a lot less supplements in, it can focus a little bit more on repopulating that gut. You could take some fermented foods, or add in different types of probiotics, or taking the PB Assist sachets also at this time. So this is going to be really gentle, and hopefully help you feel restored after that 3 months of some pretty intense cleansing. So this is what your phase 3 schedule could look like. And you could add in the what did I say? The Advantage collagen into this phase if you would like. Because then after you're done with phase 3, your maintenance phase is going to look a lot more like that, where you're taking things just for daily usage. But I would suggest doing a full moon challenge. And what that looks like is basically just phase 2. You're doing just the phase 2 during the 10 days around the full moon. And some people feel like they need that quarterly. Some people need it yearly. Some people just do it if they travel, or if they've been around a lot of animals, or different things like that. But it's a good idea to do a cleanse at least once a year. And so if you can change your cleanse to focus on parasites along with other things, you're going to be addressing things like candida, bacterial overgrowths, even some mycotoxin stuff if you're taking some good binders. So it's not a bad idea to just be doing regular cleansing to stay on top of things for your health. Then additional
Somebody
support.
asked if you can go back to phase 3 for just a second.
Yep.
A couple of people have asked. There you go.
Now, I had talked about some additional support as well. I mentioned the Meta Power Assist. So that is the product that has the mulberry and the berberine in it. Those were specifically formulated to I'm going to move on to the next slide. Hopefully that was long enough time. This one right here in the picture, this one was specifically formulated to help with blood sugar control and to help you to pass those starches and things faster. But the berberine in it is really great for helping with parasites. So you could take at least two with each meal to be additional support. The amount of berberine in it is lower than I would like. So you could take even more than that if you would like. You're just gonna have to kind of gauge it how your body is reacting to it. You could also get a berberine supplement by itself and add. So sometimes I'll take one of the metabolic assist and then 250, I think it's 250 milligrams of berberine. Sometimes I'll add to it and take those two together because I love the way that the two work together for me, for my blood sugar. It's just another option to add in if your budget is not a factor. But detox baths can be helpful with the detox process, not necessarily with the parasites themselves, but to helping your body to be pushing through all of the junk that you're going to be dealing with. Castor oil packs, I mentioned those. I don't recommend wearing them at night. I like using them during the day, like while I'm around doing things in my house. I'll rub the castor oil on and then put my pack over it or whatever and put the Zendocrine on my liver and then wear it while I do dishes or something. And then if I start feeling a little woozy, then I take it off. And then when you can work up, you could do it overnight if you are doing really well, but I like to be up and working and making sure my lymphatic system is moving while I have my packs on personally. Make sure you're having good sleep hygiene, getting to bed before 10 o'clock, sleeping in a dark, cool room. I mentioned diatomaceous earth paste. Those are really helpful for kiddos to put over their bums. And focus on an anti-parasitic diet. I had those in one of the slides. Now, the sample calendar that I promised you, I think that hopefully if what I was explaining didn't make sense, this will help it to come together. So if you're looking at your calendar, let's say that the full moon perfectly falls on the 15th of the month, then you're going to start on the 1st of the month with your phase 1, 14 days prior to the full moon. Then 4 days prior to the full moon is when you're going to start phase 2. Then after 10 days of phase 2, you go back to phase 1 until 4 days before the next full moon. Hopefully that makes sense. Then do it for another 10 days, go back to phase 1, then 4 days before the third full moon, do phase 2, and then we finally can move into phase 3. And you can do that for, what is that, 10 days? Yeah, 10 more days for phase 3, and then you can move into your maintenance phase. If you don't feel like you've noticed significant improvement after 3 lunar cycles, then you might need to kick it up a notch. Maybe you were only taking 1 GX assist a day. Maybe you need to bump it up to taking 2 or 3. Maybe you even need to go up to 4 or 5. It could be different for everybody. So change up your routine if you didn't feel like something was really working. And as you are, a lot of people notice things coming out in the toilet. And usually at first they notice big things, like big guys. Sometimes you can think that a mucoid plaque is a parasite and it really isn't. It's just a bunch of biofilm that's coming out. There's all kinds of nasty stuff that can come out. And you may notice, like I said, all the big bugs come out first. But that doesn't mean that there's not stuff coming out later on, because there's microscopic parasites that can cause a lot of problems that could be coming out and you might not see them. Now, I'm not the kind of person that goes digging to find things, but I have had clients go digging and send me pictures. And if that's your thing, like, and you want to know that what you're doing is effective, that's awesome. But also don't think that you have to go and look, because just know that you are doing amazing things for your body and helping flush out all kinds of nasty toxins and things that needed to come out anyway, whether you decide to look and find proof or not. So hopefully that is helpful. Hopefully this calendar makes sense. I do want to see if there's any clarification needed on the calendar before we break for the Q&A, because if we're sending out this recording, I want to make sure that this part itself is clear. Let me see if I can get my chat to work. There we go. The diatomaceous earth can be taken internally. During the Q&A, I will go through my protocol for that. You need phase 1 again. Does anybody have questions specifically on the calendar? If you could retype your question so I can see it at the bottom, that would be helpful. Is winter or summer a better time to cleanse? That's a really good question. As far as parasites go, I don't believe that they're particularly more active at certain seasons, but I could be wrong. I would say the best time to cleanse is when you can be compliant. So if it's hard for you to be compliant during the winter months when you've got holidays and things where you would have to avoid certain foods, do it during the summertime. I prefer to cleanse in the summer because I'm more active, I'm more out in the sunshine. The vitamin D is helpful for my body and giving me energy. Going on hikes, my lymphatic system is moving. And I feel like in the winter, I'm a lot more stagnant and I'm not going to have as good of a cleanse. But if you can be really active in the winter while you are trying to go through this and make sure that you're just moving your body, it would be really good. Yes, I will go through all 3 of the phases again. Castor oil packs are where you use castor oil and then there's like a flannel or a muslin cloth that you put over it. But any questions specifically about the calendar? If not, then we're going to go to our Q&A time. There's phase 3. And the schedule. Phase 2 schedule. Take those screenshots quick. We'll do phase 1 and then we will break for Sandy to go over the specials again. Here we go. Okay, Sandy, I'll kick it back over to you. Sandy, you're muted.
So I'm going to go back to this because I hope everyone on the call will join the Discovery Central Facebook group. You have no idea how much is in there, and it is so important to be in touch. And bit.ly/Discovery Central for the Facebook group. If not, please scan the QR code. And bit.ly/email list DE stands for Discovery Centrals. Folks want to know, is there recording? Will it be available? How long? All of that's going to be sent to you via the email, and you won't have to look in the Discover Essentials Facebook group. I love that Alicia Gabriela just says, like, here it is in your email. So definitely join that. Many of you, I think, are graduating tonight. So check your progress first at bit.ly/grad progress 2025. It is case sensitive. So please take a picture of this. And then also complete the form, everyone on the call within the next hour, bit.ly/continuing ed 2025. It's our responsibilities to fill this out if you're looking for any of the amazing classes and so on. I will tell you, this week I went out here 5 or 6 times, and the week is only half done to share what's on in the permanent library. It is great. Go out here, share with your family, your friends, whomever it might be. bit.ly/permanent library DE. I will tell you, this is a gem. This is worth a lot. So scan the QR code as well. This is fantastic. Graduation gifts. Yes, the oils, the Betty, Alicia, and Gabriella are extremely generous. But look at this side look at the right side. Essential oil certification, guys, social media, $97 classes that we are gifted after 10 classes. It's like you're paying us to attend these amazing classes. And then definitely consider these following. So you can get oils and these within 1 year. So definitely please do your homework tonight, fill that out, and check your selection if you're graduating. 3 ways to purchase the oils and the supplements that Alicia talked about tonight, retail, wholesale, and above. This is a good time to do an inventory. This is ways for all of us, even if we have a membership, to go out here and get below wholesale. Definitely when I come up with one of these coming up, healthy habits, and there is a cleanse and restore kit, and they are phase 1, 2, and 3, and those are hugely discounted as well. So definitely go out here and take advantage of these amazing savings. Unless you have 3/4 of these that you already have at home, but if not, just definitely purchase the kit in August and get started with the protocols she shared. Some more ways to get started with doTERRA, and don't forget about the 150. If whoever invited you tonight, if they're looking to get started with the cleanse, this is a great one. Please contact me by phone or email if you have any questions. I have a few more classes left to book after convention. I'm waiting for some of the big speakers to get back to me. But yes, we are going to have Alicia back again this year. And thank you so much for joining us. Enjoy doTERRA's wonderful gifts, a true gift of the earth. And I will tell you that we are going to have a drawing from
recording stopped.
Number 4 to 95. And it's going to be that shaker bottle with VMG and recharge in it. Pick a number.
You want me to pick a number?
Yes, 4 to
Yes,
95.
4 to 95. How about 24?
All right, Kayla will get that to us and put it in the chat. And did you get a chance to look at any of these?
The questions?
Yes.
Yes, I'm working through them now. I can say them out loud instead of typing responses.
Yep. Nope. This is great because now that we stopped the recording as a benefit and privilege of being on here live, and so now have at it. Whatever you'd like to share.
Okay, so Rebecca asked about the vegan binder. It's not a binder. All the binders are vegan, but the BioFlow product is Cellcore's advanced TUDCA. If you don't want the TUDCA, you could use an ox bile product. I put the code, my practitioner code. One of the digits is a 0 and one is an O. It's hard. That's why I put the QR code. I will also put the link in the comments. Is there a binder that's a whole food based and not encapsulated? Great question. You can open most of the binder capsules and put them in water, except for the Para 1. So the Para 1 is so gelatinous that you would have to put it in an oil-based product and take it very quickly if you took it out of the capsule. It's really difficult to use with kids because a lot of times they won't take it quickly enough and it bulks up very quickly. So I've had people put it in honey, but it's not great. I'm not gonna lie. It's a lot better in the capsule. But the other binders go in water pretty easily.
Question way up on top. What if I don't have any symptoms? Will the GX Assist be enough?
Well, will the GX Assist be enough if you don't have symptoms? I'm not sure exactly how to answer that. I do think that doing a cleanse is still powerful even if you don't have symptoms, because you might not notice what symptoms you have. Like if you've got any inflammation, any pain at all, it could be parasite related. And we just never know what's going on in our body. I take DDR Prime just whenever, just because I never know what's happening with my cells. You just never know. So I don't think that it's a bad thing to do cleansing, especially, some people I thought maybe somebody in my family didn't have health issues or bacteria level issues because unsaid person didn't have a lot of detox reactions. And I'm like, what is going on with you? Like, I can't take one GX Assist without it like knocking me out. And you can take 3 and have no problem. Seriously irritating. But I ran testing on said person and they did have issues. So it was nice to know that even though they weren't having detox reactions and didn't think that they had symptoms, the test results said otherwise. And their symptoms were not the same as what my symptoms look like. So I think it's always a really good idea to cleanse. We are always exposed to environmental toxins and things all the time. So it's not a bad idea to do a cleanse preventatively. You never know what could come down the pipe.
Alicia, here's one. When doing the 90-day cleanse, I know you are saying to avoid sugar. How strict should we be? Are 2 sweets a week okay?
Well, that's going to be up to you. Like how strict do you want to be? How effective do you want your cleanse to be? Do you want to be feeding the buggies while you're trying to get rid of them? So like Amy Hearn's on the call. Amy and Julie Folgate teach an amazing cleanse class. They are so strict with their cleanse, like more strict than me. It's intense. They don't even do stevia, you guys. And I was like, I can't do PB Assist or the gum. What's wrong with you? So if you feel like you can't be compliant by being as strict as Amy, I mean, Amy's amazing in that she can do that, but I can't avoid certain things. Sometimes that means that I'm gonna have to cleanse longer, or maybe my cleanse won't be as effective. So if you want to eat sweets or you don't want to change your diet, just know that your results are probably not going to be as good. I have clients that will come to me and say like, well, none of my symptoms went away. I'm like, well, did you follow the protocol the way I suggested? And I'm like, well, no. I'm like, well, if you want to have the optimal results, you have to, do the hard things. So sometimes, that's going to be up to you. I can't make you do the cleanse as super strict and as strict as Amy. But if you want to have the same kind of results Amy gets, you might want to do it super strict. So, like,
how about alcohol?
Oh, I highly encourage no alcohol. I forgot that on the slide. That alcohol puts so much stress on the liver. And so if you're going to have a rough time of it, like you're going to have more detox symptoms. Your liver's going to have a harder time working through everything if you're adding stuff that the liver has to filter and work really hard, in the body. So that's one thing that I should have added to the slide. Thank you for asking.
And Alicia, that's okay. The reason why I ask it is I have people ask me that all the time. And so they put their hands up, well, I'm not going to do it then because I like to have a drink every night. I said, could you skip a night, cut down in half at least? So I'd rather have them cleanse with a little alcohol than not cleanse at all, unfortunately.
If somebody's going to tell me that they can't cut something out, I'll say do it anyway. Like, you're still going to be doing beneficial things for your body. Just know it's not going to be as effective, right? Like, you have to still be able to be compliant. And you might notice that after you do a cleanse, you don't want those things. Like, or your desire to have a drink every night might be less. I know a lot of people that have done the cleanse where they're like, I don't need coffee anymore. I personally haven't had coffee in 15 years. And that's around the time I started doTERRA. So you may just notice you don't crave those things as much. So do what you're willing to do and to be able to stay compliant, and just know that if you don't follow the routine the way that I suggested, you might not have ideal results. For castor oil packs, so I grabbed mine. Hopefully doTERRA will have castor oil packs or castor oil released at convention. I'm hoping. But if they don't, Queen of the Thrones is where I buy mine. And this is my new favorite product from them. It's like a giant roller bottle of castor oil. So I don't know why this makes me so happy, but I rub this on my liver instead of putting it on my pack. So this is what my pack looks like. I love theirs, Queen of the Thrones, more because it's got this shiny, you can't really see it, this shiny backing that keeps the castor oil from coming through. And then this is the organic wool or cotton. I can't remember. So this is the side that the castor oil goes on. Do not put this in your washing machine. It will ruin it. So I put the castor oil roller over my liver, then rub Zendocrine oil over my liver or vice versa. And then I wear my pack over that for at least a few hours a day. Usually, like if I'm cleansing, I'll try to do it at least 3 times a week. If you feel like you need extra support, you could do it every day. But most people, don't want to. Make sure you don't wear a nice shirt with it because the oil could ruin your shirt. They also have other packs, like this cute little one goes on my thyroid. And I got a tiny little pack for my daughter, so she wears her own little castor oil pack. So they have lots of different things. They have one for hair and stuff too. So I love using castor oil. I'm so excited that doTERRA is getting it. Just not sure if it's coming out, this convention or maybe later. But they also do have like the big jugs. If you're going to do the big jugs, usually like 16 ounce. Start out, if you have a dry pack, you do about a tablespoon of castor oil when you first start because the pack is dry. So you pour it onto the pack. And then what I do is I rub it around like this to kind of spread the castor oil. And then when I go, after I've already used a tablespoon on it, usually I use just a teaspoon for recurring times after that. But I have found that doing it directly on my skin with the roller doesn't gunk up my pack as much as when I put it on the pack. So these are pretty great. The Zendocrine oil is the one that I suggest for adding to the castor oil packs. You could use any of the oils in it as well, but that's a really good one too. How many drops of DDR Prime to the veggie caps? My friend Tanya suggests to her team to just use 2 drops of DDR Prime. I like to do more. I like to do 4, or you could do 2 drops of DDR Prime and then add a few drops of clove. That's just my personal preference. I like to use like about 4 drops at a time if I'm going to do an empty veggie capsule. Okay, for ways to change things up every few months, that could be maybe you don't use the GX Assist for 1 month or for 1 round, or you add a bunch of On Guard Plus soft gels, or like I mentioned, the Cell Core products. You could add in the Para 2 and do that one on 1 round, or even trying their Para 3 to see if you have different results with this, because this one has black walnut hull in it. There's different herbals that you can use that are anti-parasitic. You could Google some of them and add those in for a different cycle if you need to change it up. But you could also use different essential oils. I have a whole list that, if you guys know Pramila Thiegason, I think is how she says her last name. She had all kinds of different essential oil protocols for changing it up. Fennel was a big one. Thyme and Arbor Vitae for her parasite cleanse. So if you're interested in changing it up, if the protocol that I shared didn't work, maybe you're dealing with like Blastocystis hominis, like I said, that takes about a year to get rid of. And you need something like that, send me an email. And did I show my email page?
No, I don't think so.
Oh, here, let me put that up there. Let me see, can I do it right here like that? You guys see that?
Yep.
Okay, so that has my contact information. That's the CellCorp code. And then that QR code is also for setting up a CellCorp account if you'd like to do that. If you have a practitioner who uses CellCorp, they can get you set up with one as well. Oh, now I can't see the chat. Shoot, where'd it go? Okay, there we go. You can take Zendocrine and Restore at the same time, yes. Or you can split them up if you'd like. Restore could really be taken at any time of the day. Dr. Riggs doesn't recommend taking it in the evening, close to bedtime, because your digestion slows down and you want to make sure it's traveling all the way to your gut. I do have a PDF of this protocol that was from a different team. it has some like shopping links and things on it for her particular doTERRA account. So if I shared it with you, you just would not want to send that to any of your customers. And there's some spelling errors and stuff on it, but I do have a PDF. If reach out to me if you'd like to have that. Yes, if you take the CellCore Para 1 and the Para 2, you would take Para 2 during phase 2. You could take them for the entire cycle, which actually is what I do. I do take it for the full lunar cycle, usually for at least 2 months. And I found so much more energy than any other cleanse I've ever done than what I had after doing a full parasite cleanse like this. Celery seed is very helpful for the gut lining and is wonderful for your kidneys and supporting with detox. That's a good one to add in. Christine, yes, GX Assist can be helpful with H. pylori, and I have used GX Assist along with mastic gum. So usually if I run a GI map and we've got H. pylori present and parasites, I address the H. pylori before I address the parasites. And I do a 60-day protocol of mastic gum or mastica or Matula tea along with the GX Assist, and I think that they work really well together. Do not take Zendocrine phase 3. No, you don't need to during phase 3. That is kind of like your wind down phase before you go into maintenance. You could, if you want to keep taking Zendocrine, you can, but I don't think that it's necessary. So you guys wanted to see phase 3 again? Okay, so here is the oils and everything that you use for phase 3, but I think you probably wanted to see the schedule. So take your quick screenshot of that. And then here is the proposed schedule. When taking GX Assist after a few days, I experienced extreme stomach ache. Is that from the parasites? I take peppermint in my water and apply on my stomach. Discomfort is gone in a few minutes. It could be from parasites. It could be just you have an extreme toxic load, Elaine. So for people that are really, really sensitive, I've talked in, we did a gut health class where we talked about using essential oils topically on the skin. So you could look at the oils that are in GX Assist, which are oregano, tea tree, lemon, peppermint, lemongrass, and thyme. You could take those and use them topically, or doing the Symphony of the Cells infectious disease protocol, or it's the ID protocol, topically on the skin, and then taking organic virgin coconut oil internally, and working your way up, starting low, like 1/4 teaspoon, and working up, because the caprylic acid in the GX Assist is derived from coconut oil. So a lot of times I have people work their way up with coconut oil and using oils topically, and then they're able to tolerate having the GX Assist internally. And that's worked out so far for a lot of people. If you want some other options, feel free to contact me and I can give you maybe some more ideas how to ease into it gently. The castor oil packs help primarily with supporting the liver and detoxing. They can help with inflammation, and people use them for weight loss. They use them for thyroid support. Gosh, there's so many different things. Hopefully we're getting it at convention and we'll get like the full breakdown and all the science and everything about the benefits of castor oil, but you can also Google that. The castor oil, I like to use specifically aiding in detoxing and keeping the bowels moving as the primary purpose during a cleanse.
They did have a castor oil in the leadership showcase at leadership. So
they did. That's why I keep thinking that they're going to have it. Okay, somebody asked to see the diet. There's the anti-parasitic foods in the graphic there. And yes, so Mary, you can take diatomaceous earth internally. I usually do the diatomaceous earth for people that have worms. And worms don't usually come up on the parasite tests. Like they're just really, really tricky to detect. So most of the time people are dealing with worms when they like actually see them on their sheets or underwear or something like, or poking out sometimes. So the diatomaceous earth, you can use it for the paste over the bum, but then when you take it internally, let's see, I had notes on that. Okay, hold on. And I can go back to that slide if you guys need it. But for worms, food grade diatomaceous earth can be added to the full protocol. If you do 1 teaspoon daily and titrate up to 1 to 2 tablespoons daily. You can add the diatomaceous earth to pet food as well and spread over the yard where they defecate. This is in my notes section that I forgot to tell you, not on the slide. Then I'll go back to the diet page so you guys can see that. Hopefully you caught those recommendations. Darylyn needs phase 1. Hopefully everybody's getting these that needs it. Okay. Is it wise to do the heavy metals or other at the same time? I think, Mary, what you're saying is like detoxing from heavy metals. This protocol will do some of that. If you are taking the biotoxin binder, that is one that I would suggest. Or it's hard because depending on what heavy metals you're dealing with, I would say stick with the biotoxin binder or the biocide and GI detox. Those are some very basic binders that can be helpful for that. Cellcore also has a zeolite, the HMET binder. I'm specifically using that for uranium toxicity right now. So that's another bind. My favorite binders are from Cellcore. They are like hands down some of the best ones that I've used. So that's what I go to. So if you are interested in heavy metals, this is also something that can help as long as you're taking the appropriate binder. But there's some other things you can do for heavy metal detox that if you'd like to talk about that, feel free to reach out to me too. Is there a whole food-based binder in place of an encapsulate? Oh, I talked about that one.
We're going to give you about 3 minutes, and I know questions keep coming in. So you've been beyond generous to answer as many as you have.
There was a question on constipation and VMG.
Somebody is constipated with it?
No, someone asked, why does VMG cause that?
I wouldn't say that it causes it. I would say that it's probably moving things through the body and the drainage pathways are clogged. So opening up drainage pathways and focusing on that and then going back, because the VMG is naturally causing the body to detox and the body can't handle the detox load. So I'm not saying that it's in a roundabout way causing it, but it's really the toxic load on the body, if that makes sense. So I think that Zendocrine complex may be helpful depending on what's going on with the individual, but I would try doing a magnesium citrate or glycinate and aloe vera products. If you're going to order from Cellcore, they do have an amazing bowel mover product that I've used for people with constipation, but usually magnesium works. I think maybe I got through a bunch of it.
I think so too. Everyone, please show your full appreciation for Alicia tonight. She just went above and beyond to share all that she shared, plus stay on here for almost another half an hour. So please unmute and show your full appreciation. And Alicia, you were fantastic.
Thank you.
Thank you, Alicia.
Thank you very
so
much,
much.
Alicia. So helpful.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Thank you.
Alicia.
Great information.
Totally awesome. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
If I didn't answer your question, then you had specific questions, please feel free to reach out to me. I'll put there's my contact info again. Take a screenshot real quick.
Thank you, Alicia.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, thanks for joining us.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Alicia.
Thanks, everyone. Mark your calendar for next week, and we look forward to seeing you next week with Dr. Essen. Take care.
Bye, everybody.
Thanks,
Have a good night.
everyone. Appreciate you being on. Thanks, Alicia.
Thank you, Sandy.